This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand dawn and great rising, Cleveland, Ohio, and the rest of planet Earth. Welcome to another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing someone that I have admired for an extremely long time. And as we get into this conversation, you will understand why. Akil Marshall is an American fitness pioneer, an educator, author, and cultural arts advocate renowned for his groundbreaking role as the first strength and conditioning coach in the National Basketball Association, his founding of the Afrika Dance Performing Arts Company, and authorship of over 20 children's books promoting self-motivation and wellness among youth. Today, we're going to be talking about a new book that he is writing and will be out very soon. It's called How Bryan Akil Marshall Became the Godfather of Strength and Conditioning in the NBA. Welcome to Open Door with Vince Robinson. Mr. Akil Marshall, how are you today?
Fantastic and fabulous. Thank you so very, very much.
Yes. Well, I've looked forward to having this conversation for a long time because I have kind of noticed your trajectory. I remember back in the day, you were doing fitness classes at various places. And as we talked about in terms of your book, being a strength and conditioning coach for the NBA, you've done some amazing things. And I can't overlook the Afrika Dance piece because that's major too. So fitness and culture all wrapped into one person, being Bryan Akil. You have defaulted to Akil, and when I was thinking about your name, I thought it might have been something that came into your life at a future point, but you started out with that name. Can you talk about how that came to be? Why did your parents decide to give you Akil?
No, my parents didn't give me Akil.
Okay.
I did add that as I, got older in life, and so I was Bryan with a Y,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always loved my name, and I'm still Bryan to those that know me as Bryan. I don't get hung up on if someone calls me Bryan. I'm happy that someone wants to say hello to me.
Right.
And it also lets me know if they call me Bryan, I know them from a certain time in life.
Mm.
And if they say Akil or Brother Akil, then I know them, from a certain time in life. And if they say Brother Akil, then I know them specifically around the culture period, Afrika Dance, educational, stuff like that. So I'm just happy someone wants to say hello to me.
Okay. So what does Akil mean?
One who reasons.
Okay. And you see the relevance to you. Was that something that you decided to name yourself, or was it something someone gave you?
It was something someone gave me, but I was very happy because that is how I looked at myself, and how my mother reared me was with that, to think and to reason things out, be sensible, logical.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was reading your bio, and we just a few moments ago had a conversation about your affinity to Jack LaLanne, and I'm wondering if perhaps that was the motivation for you to take the path in life that you chose.
One of the reasons when it came to dealing with the especially with the physical part of working out, exercise, that type of thing, yes, the calisthenics. Then seeing this man on TV who was the first person ever in the early 50s to be on TV, and then he was on from the early 1950s until I think like 1983, 1985, something like that. He was on forever. And a good human being, he's a good human being, and lived a worthwhile, loyal life, and inspired a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah. Well, I just happened to remember seeing Jack LaLanne, and I remember that whole thing about juicing, and I'm into juicing now. I got one of those $500 juicers, cold pressed juices, and just loving the pineapple and orange juice that I make with it.
That's right, sir. That's
Yes,
right.
but yeah, juicing is something that is so powerful. But we'd rather drink pop. Talk to us about your trajectory. How did you get started in the fitness industry?
Once again, from movement, Jack LaLanne, seeing, exercising, and then being a kid growing up who physicality led me to sports, that type of thing. Then I saw that, hey, sports, you need to work out, so it just went together, and conditioning became super important to me. I loved how it made me feel. It got me stronger, and then, like in my book, I actually tell a story that goes into depth a little bit more about a significant thing that happened to me. And because of it, then I really started working out, to strengthen myself, and I'm leaving that so people will have to take a look in the book and to see what that is. But it was, again, it caused me to really start training and getting stronger and getting fitter. And then I felt that it was, this is what we're supposed to do. Nutritionally, I grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist. And the Seventh-day Adventists, one of the things that they can proclaim, and they were early on, they had what you would call this health message. So eating nutritionally was important to the doctrine of the church. And so I didn't have my first caffeine like a Pepsi or something like that until I was like 19 years old. Okay. I didn't eat my first shrimp. Until I was like 38, because I ate specific things, and I grew up, I didn't eat pork at all, and so I ate. When it comes to nutritionally sound, I've been eating nutritionally like sound for, a very, I would say, all my life. About 40 years ago, I started, I took red meat out of my diet, and so, that helped me a great deal. And, I think that's one of the reasons why, again, I've never had a gut, and I think one of the reasons would also be that I had taken red meat out of my diet. I think that if I was still eating red meat to some degree, I believe that I would have had some type of gut. But very fortunate in life, I never did. And just vegetables and fruit always made great sense to me. It's what my mother, she fed us always 3 tremendous meals. The breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We always, ate extremely well, nutritionally sound. So vegetables and fruit has always been a part of my life and my world. And then as I started teenager and going to an adult, I really started even more so finding out about herbs. I read the book, Elijah Muhammad's, for Muslim, his book. I forget the name of the title right now. So sorry. But I read his book because it was dealing with nutrition. I read a lot of books that dealt with nutrition, so I could get my foothold in it. And from there, I kept getting better with the balancing of my nutrition. And back what I call the first Whole Foods was the food co-op right on like 123rd and Euclid right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, getting my herbs and just everything, and I'm just a young 20-something-year-old kid. But trying to eat the right way. I've never been a vegan. Well, first, I've never been a vegetarian. I've never been a vegan. A lot of people always assume and think that I have been, but I haven't. My whole thing is balance. I just believe in being very balanced in how you eat and everything in life. To me, it's about balance. And so, but being a vegetarian is a wonderful thing to be. Being a vegan is a wonderful thing to be. It's good. But for me, it's just being very, very balanced. I tell folk, you're never going to hear on the news with all the tragic things that happen. You're never going to hear on the 6 o'clock or 6:30 news, 11 o'clock news, that 50 people or 100 people just died today because of an overdose of vegetables, or 50 people, 100 people, they just died of an overdose of fruit. You're not going to hear that. See, and so the fruits and vegetables is a way out for people for nutrition in a big, big way. Mm-hmm. And again, if people did that, then they're going to be healthier just because of the science of the intake. They're going to be healthier. There is no debate about that.
Right. Let me ask a question, if you don't mind. I'm just curious about what the parameters of the Seventh-day Adventist diet would be.
Fruits and vegetables. It would be fish that had gills. See, so in other words, catfish wouldn't be in there. Okay, I didn't have catfish until much later in life. Catfish wouldn't be in there. There's a whole bunch. Shrimp wouldn't be in there. There's a whole bunch of things that would not be in there because they're not deemed clean. And so that type of thing. It would be beef meat, because the cow chews. The cow, has a grass diet and things like that. You could do that. No pork, because the pig, what the pig takes in and can't really get those poisons out of its body, and so on and so forth. So all of those different things would be in there, and some of it is propped up with, I think it's Leviticus 11:11 or something like that in the Old Testament, when it talks about exactly what I said. The fish with gills and boom, all those different things. Now that's how I grew up with that. I once again later in life I got to the point as I did my information, because again, one who reasons is that, hey, it's balance, and if I want to have some catfish, I'm gonna have some catfish. And then there's a whole bunch of people around the world that their intake is going to be different fishes and seafoods and different things like that, because that's what they have to be able to eat. And it can again help them to still stay a very healthy human being. So once I understood all of that, then I would eat appropriately how I felt. But again, balance, and hear me, when I first taste shrimp, I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, okay.
It must have been the fried shrimp.
It was, bro. Yes, it was. It was almost like a potato chip. Okay,
yeah,
right.
Right.
Yeah. See, so and then when I had catfish, and like that. Now, my intake, of course, is like today. I stopped because it's the weather and everything. I made sure that I picked up my salmon, because I know I'm going to want to eat some salmon over the weekend, and I don't want to be going back out. So I have my salmon, and in the winter time, I take in more fish. I just choose to do that. I like how my body does, with that. And I'm I eat a lot of sardines, and I eat a lot of mackerel, because again of of what it does protein wise, and then also, it's just super great for your brain. And so, just all these different intakes. It's food is marvelous of what it can empower you with. I mean, the pumpkin seed has such great stuff in it, and all the seeds and things. And again, that starting to find out about the herbs and everything, just to strengthen my organs. And it's just marvelous. My first little book that I wrote, pamphlet I wrote, was in 1992, called The Power of Herbs, and I wrote that. I had different little plans in there for people. And I wrote that book, and that book, people said it helped them, but that was my first time writing something to publish.
Mm-hmm. While we're talking about diet, you mentioned earlier that you gave up red meat, even though you had, I just used the word permission for lack of a better way of putting it, but it was something that could be included in your diet, but you chose to step away from it. And I know that there are a lot of people in bodybuilding in general that extol the virtues of red meat and the protein and the role of protein in building muscle and all of that. But then there are also vegan bodybuilders who get the same results, and in some cases they might even say better results by not eating meat. You chose to step away. Can you talk about why you made that decision and why people don't necessarily have to rely on red meat as a principal source of protein?
Well, again, one is the cost of meat. That's one. Okay, that's one. Okay, two, again, nutritionally, the meats that's in the stores, they're not the animals and how they put the stuff in the meats and stuff. My trust isn't there because there's so many additional things for profit that are in the meat. Cows don't graze like it was decades and decades ago. You would drive and you would see cows grazing, eating grass. Mm-hmm. Back when I was growing up. Well, you don't see them where they're fed different stuff.
Corn is what they're fed. And the corn is bioengineered, and plus they put the antibiotics in and everything, so they've corrupted the meat.
Yes, sir. Right. See, so I chose, again, like 40 years ago, just about 40 years ago, not to intake it, and because again, my goal in life was, hey, I want to be healthy. I want to live, and I want to live, and I get older. I want to be independent, and so on and so forth. And so I chose not to. And listen, I'm not going to even lie to you. Let me tell you something. When that Arby's commercial comes on TV, and with the brother with the deep bass voice,
Ving Rhames.
I don't change. That's right. I don't change the channel, man. I look, man. Listen, I look at that. I see it. It looks so good, man, and I just stare it down because I do not change the channel. I even I don't care if it's a Wendy commercial and they're doing that Baconator. Ooh, man, it looks so good. Okay, Vince.
Yeah.
But I know that if I ate it, Vince, my stomach, Vince, my stomach would, I'd be in trouble. I'd be in trouble, brother, trouble, because I haven't had it. And that sort of thing. And so it's a choice, it's a choice. And I made that decision and stuff, I don't have to broadcast it and stuff. I did it for me because I want to be able to live a certain way and that type of thing. But I do remember how I enjoyed it. And I did, pastrami and prime rib was my top. Prime rib, filet mignon. I can just, I enjoyed it so much. I played football and I professional ball. When I first went to camp and they had all that steak there and I could just eat it. Oh man,
field day.
Steaks, field day, bro. See, and so I understand all of that, but I also know that consumption can cause problems and that type of thing. So I was able to have myself straight to make a decision and choice, and I wouldn't change it for anything. And then the first bodybuilding I promoted bodybuilding competitions, and I used to bodybuild. I started bodybuilding in my 40s, and my first bodybuilding competition I was in, I won my weight division. Okay, I was in light heavyweight. I won my weight division, and I also won the mixed pairs competition to represent the state of Ohio. I was very fortunate my first contest to happen. So I would get in contests, and God bless me, and I did well, and I was going with a whole bunch of young people, and so I'm this 40-plus-year-old guy, and I'm doing well, and again, I'm not eating meat, but the name of the game is training and nutrition. Okay, and I knew how to go about conditioning. I always knew how to condition my body, how to get strong, how to be fit, because calisthenics was my thing. Okay, aerobic activity. Again, the first African American exercise show on TV. Aerobic activity, and that aerobic activity can get you strong and keep you lean and all those different things and healthy and so on and so forth. And then the first bodybuilding competitions in the city of Cleveland, in the state of Ohio, I had the first ones, and it was a national magazine. I think it was called National Physique. They did a story, a national story on my bodybuilding competition. I think it was 1988 that I had because nobody was doing drug-free contests, and that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to deal with natural athletes, and so we would have the contests to check for that, and to have bodybuilders without you taking all those steroids and that type of thing, because cats would be taking steroids, man, and all of that's different stuff happening, and break their bodies down, and just a whole bunch of stuff. So
yeah,
it's a lot of stuff. Look, beans have protein, pumpkin seeds have protein, sardines, one of the top things per serving. It's high in protein. So protein can be ingested from foods, and it's not just meat. People just think that it is, and meat. The other thing is, hey, meat tastes good, okay? And so, right. Many times they just go to that, and it's a part of it also is the macho-ness, that men eat meat, and so guys still get caught up in the macho-nism, okay? And that's never been my thing, I know I'm a male. I'm confident about that. I don't have to prove anything about my masculinity and all that kind of stuff. And I think that keeps a lot of people, I'll just say it like that, where they kind of still stay that way, because they just think that rawness helps them to be more rugged and that type of thing.
Well, I would like to endorse what you're saying about machismo, and I find it really impressive that, when you think about aerobics, most of the time you think about a woman leading a class.
Correct, 100%.
But there was you at the front of the class, and you probably had a class full of females too, right?
It was a whole bunch.
Yeah. There was a film that was done by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was called The Game Changers. And It was about some professional athletes that adopted a vegan diet, and it just talked about certain advantages that they have. So I think it's really important that people know that you don't have to be hooked on meat in order to achieve those results. And then and then the other thing, go ahead.
That's just not one bit.
Yeah.
Not one bit. Aerobic activity. See, when you bodybuild, when I would bodybuild, I would weigh about 198, 199, 200 pounds, okay? And I would go against guys who lost 60 to 80 pounds to be in my weight division. But they lost that much weight so that their bodies could lean up and their muscle could show. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the tragedy that happens to your body when you periodically just lose that kind of weight? Okay, and you do that over and over and over. That's not healthiness. And so, but because I did aerobics and keeping my body active, well, God bless. I mean, my definition would be off the charts, and my leanness, my body fat would be just close to zero. And so I get on stage and I knew how to produce muscle, and once again, and that's without having meat. I could produce muscle, and I share with people, making muscle is easy. All you have to do is repetition, and you're going to make some muscle. But to make sculptured muscle, well, that's an art form, okay? That you have this technique and skill set to how you go about doing the techniques of working out, and I was fortunate to learn how to do that, and I would teach. Well, again, I don't care if it's with the Cavs or Albert Bell was a client of mine, and to teach people how to get strong. I show people how to get strong and that type of thing.
Yes.
So, we do that, and you don't have to ingest all that other stuff. That type of thing. Aerobics is going to help your heart. I always wanted my heart to be in excellent shape, and my lungs. Super important.
Yes. Well, I look at folks that work out, and I go to the gym. I belong to Planet Fitness, and I just recently got a membership at LA Fitness, and I'm going to get a 1-to-1 fitness center membership as well. But I notice when I'm in the gym that it seems as though a lot of the ladies they prefer the aerobic exercise. So they'll walk on the treadmill for half hour, 45 minutes, use the ellipticals or the stepping machines or whatever. But you don't really see a lot of them embracing weights, perhaps because they feel like they're going to look like Miss Olympia or whatever. But to get your body to those proportions, it takes an extreme amount of work. It takes an extreme amount of food, I guess, producing the protein or, however you use the carbohydrates to add to your mass. But I'm seeing that the fountain of youth seems to be resistance training. And I use a couple of elderly ladies. There's the lady that has the slutty vegan restaurants. I can't think of her name right now, and I'm drawing a blank. But there are a couple of ladies that are up in age Ernestine Shepherd is one of them. There are ladies that took up bodybuilding and fitness late in life, and they're in their 70s and 80s, and they look fabulous. So I think it might be advantageous to those who are listening who focus on aerobics to also incorporate some resistance training. What would you say?
Oh, I would say that aerobics is going to be for your heart.
Mm-hmm.
See, aerobics is for your heart. Aerobics is for movement. Okay, strength, calisthenics help to build muscle. Okay, and so aerobics serves its purpose in a great way because you're going to be healthier with your heart. Okay, with your endurance. Okay, with movement. Many of the bodybuilders, these cats, they don't stretch. They're tight as can be. Okay, so their mobility is not there. They're stiff. Okay, every man that does needs to be doing some aerobics. That's what they need to do, But that's left up to them. Your body has to move and not be stiff. You need flexibility and mobility. especially as you start to get older. You need that. It's super, super important. Now, strength, everybody needs strength. Strength is one of the prerequisites of longevity, especially longevity. One of the most important things for longevity is going to be your legs. You need strong legs. You need strength in your legs. You need strength in your legs. That's a proven scientific fact. And when I first started doing strength training with the Cavaliers, the first thing I showed was how to get your legs strong, and it's not just doing squats. I never did squats because I never believed in having all that weight with a bar across my shoulders for my back. Never believed in it. Never believed in it. And if you take a lot of the champion bodybuilders, for Mr. Olympia and stuff like that, a lot of them have had all kinds of complications later in life with their hips and bodies. I'm talking about the top people. They've had all kinds of problems. There are guys in the city of Cleveland that was at some of the places I used to work out in. Their hips are gone. Their hips are gone. I never believed it, but I could get my physique strong because I was always taught by my parents there's more than one way to skin a cat. You figure out how to still get it done. And so that's what I learned how to do, is to get strong. I'm going to say it this way also. I haven't done sit-ups in the last 25 years. But right now, as I speak to you, I have a six-pack right now because I learned back from the 80s on how to breathe, and that's what I teach my clients, how to breathe, and you can create a very strong abdominal without doing sit-ups. The breath is powerful. So that's what I teach my clients, because again, I do the Zoom with what I call, awakening God science. And so there are ways to get stuff done, and to get stuff done, I'm not a no pain, no gain guy. I am not a boot camp guy, especially for those 50 and over. Okay? It's a mistake for not for everyone, for a great part of the population. And it's a mistake because you're not going out for anything. And people haven't been, once a person starts to get 40, 45, they should be doing self-care. But human beings don't do self-care because, again, they're busy, they're working, family, so on and so forth. And so they put it off. They're getting older, that type of thing. And so before they know it, now they're in their 60s. Okay, so now they're stiff and everything. Well, that started 15, 20 years prior from the lack of movement. Now they're stiff, that type of thing. And so then, out of many times, it feels like desperation. Now they want to go ahead and get fit, and they make the unwise move. Now, some people will maybe get angry at me for saying this, and why are you saying it? Well, I'm saying it because it makes sense that now they're going to do boot camp. And now you have a human being whose body is as tight as can be, and they're up in age. They're 50, 55, 58 years old, 60. And now they're doing that boot camp mentality. Well, their body ain't ready for it, bro. Okay? Mm-hmm. Their body ain't ready for it. Now, that the person leading the class, who may be in their 40s or something like that, okay, and has continuously still been working out, to some degree, that person may still be able to do it. But the people who haven't been doing stuff, man, they're not ready for that. They're not ready for that. And they can injure themselves, cause all kind of problems, and then not get desired results, and then they stop. The name of the game when taking care of yourself is learn how to get results. Yes. That's what I've always understood how to do. It's about getting results. And that's what I share with people. I teach folk how to get results, not putting the cart before the horse. People put the cart before the horse when they're working out, and they put too much trust in a dumbbell, a barbell, and a machine, as opposed to understanding it is your science, your physiology, your anatomy, your biology. That's where the magic of results reside, and for fitness and wellness. Every day, a human being is either getting healthier, okay, or getting better every day, or they're getting worse. There is no neutral, there is no park. Many times people think it is, like when they, because they're good people and they're relaxing and stuff like that, and not, and in their head they're like, well, I'm gonna put this on pause right now. Well, you can put it on pause, but you're either getting better every day or you're getting worse. That's just the science of it. See, and so now they get behind schedule, the stiffness sits in, and once you start inviting OLD in, bruh, OLD is going to invite OLDER. Okay? And they're going to try to set up house in your body. And that stiffness and stuff's going to happen, and it's going to be hard to get rid of. Okay? And many times when people try to get rid of it, here's the error that they make. They go and they grab the weights as opposed to doing movement, which in turn then would be aerobics, tai chi, calisthenics. You see what I'm saying? Movement. But because of the psyche of people, what they grab first are dumbbells, barbells, and machines. And they have it, they don't do the movement. You gotta get rid of that clutter that has set up in your body because of the lack of self-care. And that's what I teach people with what I call awakening God science. When I say to them, what I do on Zoom is, hey, I'm going to show you how to get strong with your hand for your upper body, and then I'm going to teach you how to get strong with your lower extremities with your foot. I'm going to show you how to do it. And then you're going to become flexible, and you're going to start to get stronger. As you were talking about that resistance training, that's a very smart thing to do. And so I share the different techniques that I know and understand. And I have clients, women who are 75, 70, 76, and they got bicep muscles. They had C-sections for all their children, and hadn't felt their abdominal muscles since after some of their first kids. And now those ladies feel and see their abdominal muscles because I'm teaching them how to do the breathing. The body is an amazing thing. The answer to a lot of things is our science. But you have to activate it and you have to get it going. And I base everything that I do off of the breath, the breathing aspect. Most of the folk walking around, they're breathing not the correct way. And I mean, if you're at a gym, if you notice when people work out, and if they're doing something hard, what do they wind up doing? When they're going to lift a weight, they wind up doing what when they're lifting?
Well,
they stop breathing.
Okay.
They stop breathing. They start grunting and holding their breath. Muscle does not grow the right way unless you breathe so the oxygen can be there. See, this thing of getting results is science-based, okay? But if you just keep on going, yeah, you'll get some bigger muscle and stuff like that. But once again, you can be stiff as a board. You don't have the same mobility and stuff like that. Now there are some people who are muscular, but they've also practiced along the way mobility. See, that's people who have done some good stuff and that's wonderful, you know. But this whole thing of of getting better, we have to live along. What you want is independence. You got to have you got to have that stretching. You have to be flexible. You have to be flexible because those everything needs to be free, and that includes the people again who listen. Life does not care because you 70, 75, and 80, and you allow yourself to be stiff and you're not doing anything about it. You can go ahead and do that if you choose to, but you're going to lose your independence.
Yes.
See, you're going to lose your independence, and that's why like I say, I'm sharing what I know. I call it awakening God science, and I tell folk, I'm going to show you how to do it. All you need is a chair and some water, and I'm going to show you how to go ahead and get started so that you can get rid of all that clutter. You get on the scale, you don't feel that extra weight, but you feel it when you're off the scale. When you try to move your arms and stuff, you feel all that stiffness. Well, that's clutter that you need to get out. And people got their drawers and their closet that they need to declutter. We also need to declutter their science, their muscle.
Yes.
They got to get rid of that. And if you don't get rid of it, you're not gonna have mobility.
Right.
And that's when I help people to understand. And once they start learning, they become freer, they become happier, they sleep better, they move better. They breathe better, less anxieties, less stress, and then to get some muscle, and they get stronger because you must have strength for older, because strength also gives you confidence. Results give you confidence and good self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. And I want to amplify what you said about leg training. Because the legs are critical in terms of keeping your balance, and so many people, because their legs aren't strong, they end up falling and they break a hip. And once you break a hip,
listen, yeah, you're going to go ahead when you fall. You're going to either hit your head, hit your shoulder, hit your hip, and statistics say when you do that, anywhere from 6 months to a year, you may be dead.
Mm-hmm.
See, this aspect again of every day you're either getting better or you're getting worse. It's no joke, bro.
Yes, indeed.
And people fall; they're falling all the time. People have in their homes. Here's a mistake that people also make. They have rugs. These little throw rugs in their houses. You don't need to have those rugs. Those rugs are a death trap for people. Those feet get tangled up in there. They can't balance themselves, and they're going down, and they're going to go down hard. They don't need those throw rugs. They need to be out of the way. But because of how people grow up with the 50s, 60s, always throw rugs. Well, that's causing those baby boomers to fall down. The carpet on the steps, that again, because wall-to-wall carpet and stuff, and the carpet on the steps, and so now people are older, they're trying to go up and down the steps, their feet are going to get caught in that old carpet, and they're going to fall. They're going to fall.
Yes.
See, this is, I teach when working out, I say you got to be smart. And what I teach is the capital A, capital R, capital T, the art of being smart when it comes to wellness and fitness and strength, mobility, everything. There's an art form that you should do. And if you do it, then you're going to get better. See, because you can get better every day.
Yes.
Every day. So that's what I work at. Sharing and teaching is that.
Yes. So you have written several books, one of which we are speaking of today, but you've written children's books. And I'm curious about the nature of the books that you wrote for children, and what was the impetus for you writing children's books?
Well, my educational company, Winning in America, okay, and so I also had what I call ABC123 Kids Express. So my educational companies, I've been, 35 years I've been doing education. So from pre-K to the 12th grade is my programming. And so back around 2006, 2007, because that Facebook thing started, I'm like, okay, this whole thing is these kids are going to, and with the phones and stuff, these kids are going to be going towards screens. That's what's going to be in the schools. So I started writing children's books because I could see that that's where young people are going to be paying attention to that screen. And so I created my books where I had the book. Every one of my books also had a song. Every one of my books also had was a digital, so the pages are flipping and the music is there, and then all of my books also had a video, because it's you have to grab the kids' attention, because everybody is trying to gain that young person, the marketplace, that young mind's attention. And so I started creating the books with, again, being videos, digital books, books that you hold, and then songs, so that in my curriculum we could have the children's attention. And so we made everything that way, from math to science to history. You remember Ken Ferguson, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ken Ferguson was also one of my teachers in school. Okay, I would bring Ken Ferguson in, and so we made songs up where Ken Ferguson would teach phonics through the martial arts, and these kids would be standing up, TH the, and they're doing the movements. The whole class is completely engaged, but they're learning to sound out the words, the syllables, and to do it the right way. And they're having a grand time helping them with phonics. So, so my books would cover all of those different things. My videos would support it. So that was my aspect of my curriculum, is you have to gain a person's attention. And so if you can't do that, if a teacher can't do that, then you can't teach them. So that is how I got started. What I call multimedia accelerates literacy learning. Is to get young people to pay attention, have them singing. Okay, have them singing. They're having a grand time, but they're learning. And that would be the reason why, and then we would help with the discipline, what I call awakening the genius, so that they can work at winning in America.
I see. I want to make sure that we also include your relationship to Afrika Dance in this hour. So talk to us about how that got started and how it played out for you.
Well, I got started. You take I met Saida, and so Saida was she was in a dance company called Imani. Okay, and she loved dancing, that type of thing, and African dancing. And then Imani went out of business. Okay, and so she was despondent about that. I said, well, hey, start your own dance company, because I've been an entrepreneur all my life, And she said, I don't know how to start no dance company. I said, look, I'll get one started for you. I'll get it started for you. And so I started creating the company. But as I was creating the company, I was a black man. I grew up. I studied I knew my American black history, but I also knew my world history of who I was as a human being, as a black person in world history. So I understood that quite well. And so when I started doing that, And then I did calisthenics. I told you my background, calisthenics, and the movement, music, that whole aerobic, that type of thing. And once I started seeing that African dancing, bro, and that connect, because I always worked out with music, movement, okay? And when I started hearing them drums, bro, okay, man, that triggered my soul. That triggered my soul. I was just taken in, and then I became full throttle with Dance Africa Dance and wanting Dance Africa Dance because I know the mindset of people, and the Caucasians also particular, that they look at Africa as ooga booga and don't know all the greatness because, again, of world history and how they look at things, okay? So I said my goal was to make Dance Africa Dance a dancing accompanied jewel in the city of Cleveland, going to be highly respected. And so I worked at making it professional and being creative with the arts, traveling to Africa to learn things and bringing masters to the city of Cleveland. And we were able to do that. So for 25 years, we performed in front of over 1.5 million people. We did everything from small little venues to all these schools in the city of Cleveland, did work. And that's how out of that grew my educational company, because schools started calling us to do workshops. Then they started calling me to do residencies. And so then I had to create more curriculum, to teach the young people. We were very good on discipline because we knew how to captivate and engage the young people. And then, we started doing productions that started a relationship with the Cleveland Orchestra, because I felt very strongly, hey, look, I know how these folk look at Africa, and I know how they look at African dance, because you're moving your hips and stuff like that. They're gonna just make it a sexual thing. And so, that's why I said I'm gonna do programming that we're gonna be on the Palace Theater, the Ohio Theater stage with creativity. And then that's when I worked at creating Baba King, or creating the Legend of Nguzu Saba with Kwanzaa, where I had created the seven candles, and I represented those with 7 characters. So then had a musical, and 40,000 people have seen the production of the Legend of Nguzu Saba, on the Ohio Theater stage, at Severance Hall stage, and different cities around the country. And so Dance Africa Dance was something that I loved. We reached people and taught people, and it was my goal, again, that where we would enrich African dancing here in the city of Cleveland. And I had a great partnership with the Cleveland Orchestra, and then we did many productions, again, very fortunate, at Playhouse Square, the Palace, the Ohio Theater, Allen Theater, and Severance Hall. We was on that stage many times. In fact, when they renovated the stage and spent all that money, the first group that they had to be on the stage after that, besides the orchestra, was they invited Dance Africa Dance to do that. Okay,
so this time has just flown by. Unfortunately,
yes,
we're out of time, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that you've written a book called How Bryan Akil Marshall Became the Godfather of Strength and Conditioning in the NBA. It's got a foreword by Jim Jones, and it is illustrated. It's a fabulous book, and we look forward to reading it, and it will be out soon. I want to thank you for joining me on Open Door today, and I want to thank you for listening. As always, you can check out Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU And you can check us out on iHeartRadio. Don't forget, when you get to the YouTube channel, like, comment, and subscribe. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make it a great day. Peace.